Greetings and great evening. Happy Thursday, bringing you a Utopia Thursday live from Costa Rica. My background is not the norm. If you could see behind me, it's actually a gorgeous ocean and beautiful greenery and foliage. So I'm at Gigi Beach Club. The sun has set here in Costa Rica. So it sets a little earlier here, closer to the equator. But I am so excited to be bringing this Utopia talk. I think a topic that we really all need, and that is navigating burnout and fatigue with grace, flow, and ease. And I have with us today our wonderful resident mental health coach and therapist, Leslie Stevens Tavera. So give folks a welcome and let them know where you're joining from, Leslie.
Hey, everybody. So good to be here. Thank you so much, Naya, for having me. We're about to have an awesome conversation because we could soapbox on this all day. But I am here in Durham, North Carolina. So it's not as beautiful and sunny, but still it's lovely. You know, it's a lovely time over here.
That's right. That's right.
We're having a great time. So glad to be here.
Yes, absolutely. And also we have with us one of our newer team members, which is Eileen, and so happy to have her joining us. And she's our producer for the evening. So she's going to help manage the chat. So if there are any questions you have, share those with us. And also I want to invite you to let us know where you're joining from geographically and, where you work, kind of work you do. A lot of burnout comes from the work we do, and
That's
we're
right.
here to help navigate some balance. That's right. So also, if you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank your level of burnout? Because statistics say about 70% of us are dealing with chronic stress levels, burnout, or fatigue. So I want to give you a chance, Eileen, an opportunity to say a quick hello and let the people know where you're joining from.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eileen, and I'm joining from Houston right now. And yeah, I'm really excited to this episode podcast, and really hope you guys will enjoy. And let us know if you have any questions. Just feel free to ask any questions or anything from the chat.
Beautiful. That's right. Thank you. So we're covering some territory. We have Texas, we have North Carolina, we have Puerto Viejo, Costa Rica. And so, again, I am in Costa Rica. That's why it's a little dark in the background because it's the ocean in the background. It's greenery, it's gorgeous. And I always say sometimes we have to simply get a way to go up. So I also like to start off our talks, our Utopia talks, with some stats, just really grounding us in kind of where we are in terms of the world of fatigue, the world of burnout, the chronic stress levels. And for those of you that might be joining for the first time, let me also share, I am the founder and CEO of Utopia Global Wellness. We specialize in multicultural, globally relevant workplace wellness and bringing wellness right to your door, right to your desk, with virtual classes, coaching, workshops, and retreats. So this is an exploratory trip with me being here in Costa Rica, exploring a future home for our next upcoming retreat. So we have one coming up in Belize and Bali, because again, we have to get away so we can go up. Sometimes we have to find a departure from the day-to-day. It's always pulling us into the demands, the hustle, the bustle. It never ends. And so one of the best ways to give yourself the mental margin so you can really reset, restore, refresh is to give yourself some physical margin. And it may not be Costa Rica. It may be a little bit closer. Like, what would be examples, Leslie, of closer departures or mini departures that allow us to have a little bit more of that space?
I'm going to take a sort of a vision out of your playbook because you're super great at this. A coffee shop. A coffee shop with some really good ambiance, a vibe, a restaurant, somewhere that feels not like your normal, right? And so you can have a quick 15 to 2 hour departure right in your backyard. Essentially, we have so many, even here in North Carolina, even here in Durham,
Yes.
right, and Chapel Hill, we have so many beautiful and cute coffee shops that you can go and have a little bit of an escape, you know. So anything from a coffee shop to a staycation, you know, like take Friday, Saturday, Sunday and go book yourself into a hotel or go into a neighboring city, drive 2 hours to the east or to the west and go to the beach or closer to the mountains, you know, and just take the margin that you need. So something like a coffee shop or something like a staycation, there are ways to create that margin.
Absolutely. Staycation coffee shops are my jam. So I'm glad you said that. So now that I have been in Costa Rica for a couple days, Gigi Beach Club in Puerto Viejo has become my jam. It's become my spot. So I always look for places for me to shift my atmosphere. We're going to dive into this more in terms of navigating burnout and fatigue, because we have to know what can re-energize and refuel us and reset and refresh us, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, you know, your home should be a retreat from the world. It should be a tranquil hiatus if done well. And mine is tranquil and it is cozy and it is relaxing, which means it's not a conducive place for work. So I can get a couple hours in my home office. I can, you know, I position myself by a window and all of those things, but it's home. So I can get derailed and distracted with, oh, maybe I should try to cook something for later while I'm sitting here. Or maybe I should go and put some laundry in the basket and whatever, or in the washer. So there are things that distract us and can derail us, which also cause us to be more depleted. So before we dive all the way in, I want to invite you to elevate your utopia, you all. So what does that mean? That means you might have, it's dinner time. So maybe you're having dinner with us. Maybe you're having a favorite beverage. This is club soda. So I love me a little sparkling something without all the sugar. Maybe you're adding a little aromatherapy. Maybe you're sipping on tea. Maybe you're grabbing your journal. So elevate your utopia and whatever that means for you. And these are ways that you're also can incorporate this into your daily lifestyle practices in terms of navigating burnout and fatigue.
Yeah.
So let me get into a few new things that's really exciting. We are delving more into our coaching practice. So coaching is available with many of our wellness instructors. Myself, in terms of leadership development coaching, as not only group, but also some individual opportunity. Leslie is our mental health strategist, coach, therapist. She has very minimal availability, but there is some group opportunities that she has available for group coaching for our corporate clients. And then we have nutrition coaching now, as well as meditation and breath work. So I want to say welcome for those that have joined us. It's so good to see you. Let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank your burnout? We want to make sure that this conversation is engaging. It's not just between Leslie and I, Annie Lee, but between you two. So say hey, say what's up. If you just joined, I'm in Costa Rica. So it's a little dark in the background because the ocean is behind me, but we are working it out. And I have like cool, beautiful breezes flowing, mosquitoes flying, all the stuff that comes with nature. I always say par for the course. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. The mosquitoes are here too. They are here for it. So on this talk, we're really going to embark on a journey of self-discovery around our self-wellness, our self-care. Utopia Global Wellness is all about providing practices, classes, tools, tips, strategies for you to really boost up your self-care toolkit. And so we want to do that tonight. So I'm going to share a couple of stats with you that I found like pretty astonishing, right? Around how many people are dealing with burnout. And these are key burnout stats, trends, and facts for 2024. We're only 2 months into the year, you all. So I want to share with you, most employees have felt some level of overworked and exhaustion throughout their careers. Two-thirds of full-time employees, they experience burnout at some point in their careers, and workplace burnout is becoming increasingly common 36% of workers state that their organizations have nothing in place for them to stave off employee burnout. If you're working with an organization that doesn't have anything to help you stave off employee burnout, or you're a people manager or you're a HR manager, we would love to schedule a discovery call with you so you can actually go to utopiasgw.com and schedule that under workplace wellness. A few other things. I thought that this was interesting. Women are more likely to experience burnout than men. In 2020, 32% of women said they felt consistently burned out, while only 28% of men felt burned out. And we're going to talk about that. More than 50% of women in leadership positions feel burned out. And that's fascinating. And I know that Leslie has, in addition to being on our team, she's also a co-founder of Congruence Counseling, and she works with a large population of women in perfectionism. And I think it may go hand in hand, the pressures that we put on ourselves. I'm going to share a few more stats, and then Leslie, I would love for you to chime in here. Having young children is additional stressor. New mom, Leslie.
We're checking all the boxes here, aren't we? Are we checking all the boxes?
47% of working moms and 38% of working fathers are burned out. As of February 2021, 59% of millennials, 58% of Gen Zers, and 54% of Gen Xers shared similar burnout rates, where baby boomers, well, they're kind of in that retirement mode. About 31% of them feel burned out, so much lower levels. Income levels make a slight difference as well. I wonder why. So we can talk about that. The highest rate of burnout was reported between mid-level incomes. That's incomes with 44% of them being in the 30,000 to 60,000 bracket. The lowest rate of burnout was 38%, and that is in the 100,000 and above bracket. I give you a whole lot right there. So we're just going to pause. We're going to pause and let's unpack, Leslie.
Yep. So many places we could go with this.
Right, there is.
But okay, so top level down, right? Burnout is pervasive, and oftentimes we don't even know that we are moving toward burnout. Right? We think the tiredness is normal. We think the actual fatigue is normal. What do? We go get our coffee, we get our tea, we get vitamin B12 shots, right? And we don't take things off of our plate. We're steady adding things on our plate, right? And then we're saying like, I don't know why I feel like this. I don't know why I feel, really, really tired. I don't know why I had trouble getting out of bed this morning. I don't know why I'm snapping at my family members. I don't know why I had to hurry up and hop off of this call, right? So it's sort of this denial dance, if you will, that we think that we really can handle more than we can. Last time we talked about the capacity pie. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
We think we can handle more than we can. And then we keep adding things on and not taking things off. And we don't know the warning signs of burnout. So top level down, coming into awareness with what your normal is, baseline, and then identifying how you're off from there, right? So you mentioned women. I do work with a large population of women. And I believe that the reason that we are burnt out is because we carry on a degree of emotional load that men may not carry, right? So it's not just about what we're doing at work and what we're doing at home. It's what we're feeling in our hearts. It's what weighs heavily on our minds, trying to keep all the pieces together, trying to juggle everything, trying to maintain our own sanity and sort of nurture and protect those that we love. So we carry an emotional load that men historically do not carry. And that's what increases our level of burnout. Plus, we have the wage gap, right, between what we earn and what our male counterparts earn. So when you're talking about how that overlays and coincides with the income bracket, like women historically are making less money than our male counterparts.
Absolutely.
So if we're making less money, if we're working the same type of job, if we're also taking care of the kids at home and making sure the home is a safe place and a safe haven, if we're doing the back and forth with the kids, if we're showing up for work, really wanting to do a great job and putting 100% in, we're going to be stretched really, really thin.
Really thin. Absolutely. And then, I just want to add on to that, someone that is, I personally am a third generation entrepreneur. I've also spent extensive years working in corporate. And I want to call out a real reality. The real reality is not only are we seeing the higher levels of burnout for women, because typically we're trying to manage work in the home and family, and also feeling sometimes maybe that we have to, overperform. I think that
Certainly.
that is exasperated even more for underrepresented talent groups, and especially for people of color, and women of color. And so sometimes you feel like you don't have the grace to mess up or get it wrong. So the pressure and is so high a lot of times to be able to perform and to be able to navigate, new circumstances. I was This was something I was working on with one of the tech companies that I worked with, and I was helping with like one of the intern pilot programs, and recognizing that even for a lot of, you know, I would say talent of color, a lot of them may be the first generation to graduate from college. So when you think about that, there's also navigating a lot of new situations where sometimes parents can't always, you know, provide a roadmap. And so just, or lack of mentorship or lack of sponsorship. And so these are things that can add extra layers and levels to even, the fatigue, the burnout, the perfectionism, trying to get it all right. Right. I think also recognizing the signs, as you said, we're doing all these things, but one of the things that we also need to think about, you said it, Leslie, sometimes we don't even know that we're burnt out.
Yep.
And we, with the stats that I shared, this problem is pervasive. The stats that I shared, we're seeing that men, women, various generations are dealing with burnout, people from all backgrounds. We're also seeing that those managing children, it's a higher level of burnout there. In addition to managing children, we're also seeing that those that may have less income. Why less income? That makes sense, right? Because you can't really, when you're financially stressed, that's a stress like no other, right? I think health maybe first, and then second maybe financial stress, but also you can't necessarily afford the help, the support systems that you need, whether it is, you have a demanding job. Do you have the income to have a nanny? Are you feeling guilty because maybe you're not able to be as present at home? And so one thing is getting more attention and something else is getting less. So I think it's also important to talk about what are the signs? How do we know? I want to give us some signs to really think about, are you burnt out and you don't recognize it as burnt out? Are you over functioning? Are you exhausted and depleted? Are you feeling like you just want to get away and escape? The desire to escape. Hey, I'm in Costa Rica, so you know what? I can say comfortably, I was feeling burned out.
Yeah.
And I know what refuels my cup, and it's getting away to go up, which is why I curate retreats, because I want to create these transformational spaces for other, high achieving, executives, leaders, because I know we need that time for a pause. But some of those symptoms can include the chronic exhaustion, cynicism, maybe you've become a bit cynical, decreased productivity. You'll notice sometimes like, gosh, I used to be able to just whip out a report. I used to be able to, get the kids off, get to the dry cleaner, get to the gym, and then get back to the office in an hour and a half. And I just can't. I'm just not doing it in that same fast-paced way. So, you may realize that, like you said, you're snapping, you're irritable. That can also be a sign of anxiety, is a shorter fuse in terms of temperament. So there are a lot of things that we are seeing in our behavior, but we really just don't know how to identify what's really going on.
Yep. I agree 100%. And, it's about taking that step back and creating that margin and giving yourself the space to say, or even to bring into awareness, right? Come into that place of awareness first, that something's off, and give yourself the permission to let yourself know that something's off. because
Yep.
so oftentimes we don't want to face that truth, because facing that truth means then that we're responsible to do something about it, you
Yes.
know? And if we're
Yes.
strapped financially, if we already have sort of a belief system in the back of our mind that there's no way out, like I don't have capacity in my day to take a break or take a weekend, I don't have the finances to hire a nanny or to seek support, right? If I don't have
Right.
these things, I don't want to face the fact that I'm carrying all of these plates in the air and they're falling and they're dropping. I'm just
Yeah.
going to bear it and bear down harder and work harder. So we do the opposite, right? We
Mm-hmm.
try to kick it into the next gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until our gears get stuck.
And the thing about it is, we know this. I think sometimes we take for granted that we are Superwoman or Superman, and that, I've always been able to plow through. And so I'm going to continue to do that. But I want to caution us about that. I really, really do. We are overextended, not just in, this week, this month, this year, but for years. You all,
Yes.
we have been compiling, we are approaching 4 years since the COVID epidemic was given a formal title. Next month will be 4 years. Can y'all even believe that?
Right.
So the shifts in the world, I mean, gosh, I say, like, there are major shifts happening in just the landscape of life every 3 to 4 months, to the point that things that just happened a few months ago sometimes feel like it was 2 years ago. But when you compile the levels of mental exhaustion and fatigue and grief, and navigating, hybrid workspaces, and navigating, working from home and that new normal for many, and navigating home space and children's space and school space, and even the children having meltdowns, social meltdowns and mental breakdowns, and the level of lives lost unexpectedly, tragically, over the last couple of years because of COVID, not to mention all of the other elements of life, and then still trying to push through, we're still seeing the aftermath of COVID that's still real. And people are still getting it, and it's still here. And just not even, you talk about the coffee shop. Well, the coffee shop was my little neighborhood escape, and it still is. But for a season, I couldn't even do that. And then even doing what used to bring me comfort came with a level of fear, because I'm worried about my mask. I'm thinking about, am I going to go home to see my family soon? Okay, you've heard me say, like, yeah, I'm not going to go to this event or that event because I'm going to be around my parents, and I want to be careful and cautious. So all of the mental dexterity that takes on top of life and the way we work, especially the way we work in America.
Yeah.
Y'all, it is a lot. So what can we do to navigate this? I have my little list, but I want you to go ahead and dive in first, Leslie. What can we do to navigate burnout and fatigue? You gave us some really good ones earlier, like the coffee shop. What else do you have for us?
Yeah, so those bear repeating, but it starts from the inside out. So like I said, bring it into awareness, giving yourself that permission to be real with yourself and to get out of denial. And then, and again, I want to say that this may come from a place of privilege, depending, but at the same time, health is wealth, right? So if we can meet with a coach or meet with a therapist, oftentimes if you're meeting with a therapist, we take insurance. Co-pays are like $10, $15, $25. Unpack with somebody those belief systems that you have around the work mentality that you have. What messages have you heard? Why are you grinding so hard? What is behind that? So from an inside out perspective, so begin doing the inner work to identify what is undergirding that. And chances are it has something to do with survival, right? Fear of loss, fear of lack, fear of failure, fear of death, fear of something, right? Fear of loss of security of any kind thwarts our ability to survive. So dig into that first of all, inside job first. When you bring those things into awareness, and if you work with somebody, again, therapist, coach, you can then begin to identify what works for you in terms of a plan to get out of burnout. It really might be take some time off of work, right? And then you have to trust that if you take that time off of work, the clients will be okay. The work will still be there when you get back, right? Like we've seen those corporate memes, like if you were gone today, they'd find somebody to replace you tomorrow, right? So it might be take some time off of work. It might be when you have that hour-long lunch break, take the whole hour for yourself. It may be shut
Mm-hmm.
down all of your devices, because even when we're scrolling, when we're mindlessly scrolling, our minds are on, and so that's energy that we're wasting, depending on how
Mm-hmm.
productive we are in that moment. So you may want to
Mm-hmm.
stop scrolling a little bit, scroll a little
Mm-hmm.
less to preserve some of that
Mm-hmm.
energy. So
Mm-hmm.
identify where you can get some of that energy back, where you can pull back, where you can retreat, where you can go into non-doing, right? So the antidote to this fatigue and burnout is to rest. If you see my hoodie, check out the website, Lely Tavera, Trust the Rest. The antidote to burnout and fatigue is to really give your brain and your body the space that it needs to rest. And that looks different for everybody, but overarchingly, rest is non-doing. It may not be sleeping, but it is stepping back and not doing.
Absolutely. That is so good. And so I have a few things too. Definitely, as Leslie said, prioritizing our self care, even thinking about like if you are a mom, think about other people in your village, think about other moms, parents that you can even do like a trade off with, like you'll keep their child for a certain block of time during the week or on a weekend. So you can get out and run errands or have a date night, and then vice versa. Even thinking about simple things. With Utopia Living, I believe in creating your daily habits that make you better. And so some of my daily habits are the use of aromatherapy. I usually have my mist with me, but I'm traveling. It is also journaling. This is a daily habit where in our 30 Days to Utopia Living journal, these are now on Amazon. But, I don't just do what am I grateful for? That's a powerful one. If it's just three things. But now I've added to it, setting my intention for the day. What am I releasing for the day? How will I pour into myself for the day? So it helps me to really think about how I'm going to move throughout my day from a perspective of self-care in the beginning of the day. Maybe it's soaking in the tub. Maybe it is, adding music while you work. These are all that I do. Self-care practices, Utopia Living practices that I've developed and I'm continuing to add because they're simple and a lot of them are little to nothing, if not free. If it's not, even if it is raining, sometimes it's good to walk in the rain, but making sure you're getting some fresh air and some sunshine. I want to caution, those that are introverts and feel like they don't need to get around people. The more that you stay indoors and you are not interacting with people, it does affect your mental health. It also can contribute to Alzheimer's, dementia. So make sure, whether it is a walk down to the end of your street and back, say good morning, good afternoon to a neighbor or two, whether it is walking to your your mailbox and back, whether it is going to a school and walking around the track, whether it's getting in your car and going for a ride if you have mobility challenges, listening to a favorite podcast, cracking the window and getting some fresh air. But it is critical sitting on your back porch, your front porch, reading a book, listening to a favorite YouTube, listening to your favorite music. So music, aromatherapy, candles, breath work, taking some cleansing breaths, affirmations, all of these things you can do, most of those things you can do without even spending any money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to encourage you to think about, I'm actually going to give you all about a minute or at least a few seconds. I want you to go ahead and write down what are some of your current self-care practices. Feel free to share them in the chat. And what are maybe some hobbies, some self-care practices, some levels of exercise that you enjoy? It's like when people think about dieting, first, sometimes they think about everything they can't have, but I like to reposition that. What can you have that you love? What are the things that are good for you that you love to do? And then go ahead and write those down. Then I want you to think about how you can gift that time to yourself. Because if you don't gift it to yourself, it's coming for you. So basically, you can take the time, or the time that you don't give is going to take you, right? And so what that looks like is 80 to 90% of death and disease is caused by stress. 80 to 90% of death and disease, the reasons why people are leaving this earth well before they're supposed to, is something that we can choose. And while I'm here in Costa Rica, something that really stands out to me is the fact that, and forgive the background noise, Netflix currently has a special, and it's called Live to Be 100. And on that special, there's a part of Costa Rica that is featured, and people are living to be 100 without even trying, because they're moving their bodies. They are centenarians. They're 90, they're 80. They gather with friends and community. They walk to their neighbor's house. They have dinner together. They're in their yard, in their garden. They're moving. They're squatting. They're sitting. A lot of us start to pass away in the States because we fall. And because we fall, we break something. And a lot of times we don't recover. Well, that is directly related to balance. The reason why we don't have the balance that they have in other cultures is because we have these big cushy sofas and our lazy boy chairs. And we're sitting and sitting and sitting. And COVID didn't help that. And sitting is the new cancer. So we have to move our bodies. If we don't move it, we lose it. So move it at whatever pace you can, at whatever degree you can. But hear me loud and clear. If you don't move it, you lose it. And I want to give a shout out to my father, who has some mobility challenges, but was a marathon runner. But you know what? This man, he doesn't let that stop him. When I was in Maryland, we went walking almost every day that we could. And I'm like, if he can do it, there's no excuses for most of us. Some people, they can't. But it's not easy for him to. And he still has a will and a desire. And what happens is it fuels his energy. It makes him want to do even more and do even more. And so I'm so inspired by that. So I just wanted to share that. And the next would be setting boundaries, learning to say no. And there are ways that we can say no that might be polite, but we do have to learn how to say no. And we have to learn what healthy boundaries look like. So I'm going to let you share more on that, Leslie, because I know you're really good at reminding me and others to elevate our boundaries when we need to.
Right. And boundaries are necessary. I have lived the life of being boundaryless, right? So I know this not only by the textbook, but also what it means to not have boundary, and for the lack of boundary then to lead to burnout. So if you're saying yes to everything and yes to everybody, if you're overcommitting, right? If it's all about what the other needs for me to do, and you're never tuning into what you need from yourself, you're just giving so many parts of yourself away. And then there truly is nothing for you, right? So setting boundaries is absolutely paramount and key. And again, we've heard the little phrases like no is a nice word, no is a complete sentence. There are many ways to express that no, like you're saying, but like acknowledging, I want to give this time for myself. And if I tell this particular obligation no right now, no, not yet, no in this moment, I am saying yes to myself. And if I say yes to myself, that gives me that much more capacity, that much more margin to show up for that yes later. So no is not saying no, never. It's no right now, no for this activity, no in this moment, no in this way, because I need to give myself a yes. So if we can be more comfortable or reframe it for giving ourselves a yes, and then we can come back and that no can be a yes when we're a little more balanced.
A quote that I recently shared, and I kind of added on to it, is that self-care is self-love. And when we prioritize self-care for ourselves, we show up better, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us, our relationships, our family, our friends, our colleagues, our businesses. And when we do not take the time and put those boundaries in place and protect time for us to go for our walk, or to go to the gym, or to get a massage, or to go and get our therapy, or to join our Utopia Global Wellness classes, whether it is yoga, seated yoga, breath work, Tai Chi, whatever that is. When we fail to do that, then we are more likely to be burnt out, which means we're not as productive. We're not as warm and engaging. We're not as positive and optimistic. We're not as pleasant to be around. We're really not fully functioning. So who wants that, right?
Right.
Who
enjoys that?
Oftentimes
we think that we're being mean by saying no, right? But there are ways that we can have the conversation. And I really think in our communities, we have to begin to have this conversation, right? If I can respect your boundary and you can respect my boundary, and we can have the conversation about what that looks like. It doesn't come off as mean, right? Chances are we've heard like, we try to set a boundary, then someone like, kind of thwarts up against that boundary or tries to buffet that boundary. And then it's, oh, am I wrong? Am I mean? Should I not be taking time for myself? But we have to begin to dig deeper in our communities into this boundary talk so that everyone can have a fuller understanding of why boundaries are healthy for the whole community, not just me, not just I'm being selfish, but if all of us could get on board with the boundaries, I respect yours, you respect mine, all of us can have a greater degree of health and then show up more ideally in those areas.
When you were talking, one of the boundaries that came to mind for me, and I think that this is a boundary that's very hard to set for entrepreneurs. I think even for leaders, men and women leaders, looks like based on the stats, women have a harder time with this. Maybe the saying no, because part of us maybe wants to be nice. Maybe we're socialized to be nice. But when I think about entrepreneurship specifically, I know last year there were lots of great opportunities for Utopia Global Wellness and lots of great visibility opportunities. And I think that we feel a pressure to be everywhere, especially every place that we've been invited, and maybe even places we think we should be. We should be in the room. And there is something to that. I always say you have to show up to go up, but we also have to get away to go up. But you have to know when to find that balance by being more in tune with yourself. And as I went into, this year, sentiments that we saw all across social media platforms is people were so exhausted from 2023. And I was one of those people. And I realized that I could not continue the way I had been going if I'm really going to be an advocate of self-care, if I'm really going to practice what I preach and live what I teach. I was running myself literally into the ground, looking for that opportunity, that pause for utopia, and saying like, okay, I'm just going to get through these 2 months and then I'll pause for the holidays. Well, great. Kind of pause for the holidays, but then the new year comes, and so do all the pressures and all of the expectations. And I just made a conscious decision that I am approaching this year differently. I'm leaning more into what fills my cup. I am living more into my utopia, which is really the Utopia Living philosophy, meaning all areas of our lives living in harmony. And so it means it can be a little scary to do something new and to say no to things, so you can say yes to other things. And sometimes that yes to other things is that yes to you, right? So you are the star of your life. You are the CEO of your life. Whether you have a formal business or not, you're the CEO of your life, you're the CEO of your home. And so you have to make executive decisions to make sure that you're able to show up and go up. And sometimes you have to press pause so you can replenish and restore in order to do that. So I want to encourage, and I know that a lot of entrepreneurs, we have real talk when you're in real community, are exhausted, depleted. Sometimes they just fade to the back for a while. And I'm not fading to the back in terms of like just kind of not being present, but I'm being present in a different way where I can not only replenish my cup, but also advance Utopia Global Wellness forward in a new way, a new direction that's really helping people in greater ways take back their health and their self-care. And one of those ways is, focusing more on coaching and retreats. And so we'll talk more about the retreats at the end, but I just wanted to say that it's going to feel scary sometimes to say no to, maybe being at this conference or being at this speaking engagement. And especially if they're not paying y'all. At the end of the day, don't kill yourself and kill your finances trying to be everywhere. I want you to really take an inventory of the activities that you were a part of over the last 6 months. And I want you to rank the ones that were fruitful, where you could actually see some direct fruit from those, and ones that maybe not. And sometimes it is an ongoing, I always say entrepreneurship and building a business and even being a leader. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so it's not always going to be an immediate ROI, but I just say all that to say, maybe even go back for the last 12 months. And I want you to start recalibrating and reevaluating where you expend your energy, because sometimes people will just suck the life out of you and they will ask you to do this and do that, show up for this event, that event, speak this, and maybe they don't have the budget. But when they do have the budget, I want you to pay attention to, have they called you back once they have the budget? And so you start to assess a lot of things, and you start to really be very protective of your time, because it's something you never get back. So that is a huge part of setting boundaries. And I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that goes into our grace, right? What we were talking about, this trusting, we get into scarcity mindset, and rightfully so. We're humans. The brain wants to help us survive. And that's the only job of the brain. The brain has many functions, but it doesn't link up, so it all works together. But the brain's main job is to help us survive. So that scarcity mindset of, oh, missed opportunity. Am I going to have another chance? Oh, missed opportunity. Am I not going to be able to get this back? Right? Scarcity mindset, right? But we have to practice that intuition, right? That discernment and leaning into ourselves, and also trust that the right opportunities will not miss us. You know what we say, what is meant for me, it will come back around, right? Or I'll have a greater opportunity next time. We have to lean into that big G component of the grace and give ourselves permission and trust that we won't miss the opportunity.
Yes. Moving from the scarcity to abundance mindset, and what's for us is going to be for us, right? And so I want to acknowledge, Oche. Thank you so much for joining us from Hanover, Pennsylvania. He said his burnout level is an 8, and so let us know, Eileen, if you see any other chats in the chat for Facebook or LinkedIn. I don't want to miss you all, so my apologies for the delay. But you can just, chime in the conversation or put your little finger up so we know if there's anything else to share. But I just saw that. So yes, continue to share you all where you're joining from. What do you feel like is causing your burnout? What is causing your burnout? Is it a combination of things? Can you pinpoint one or two things? And I'd love to hear what you all do to combat your burnout. What are some of your go-tos? You heard some of mine. Leslie, what are some of yours?
I've been on maternity leave, right? So I've got some new ones, honestly. Because pre this, I was the type of person who actually had to be sort of sat down, if you will, for me to have that revelation, like, oh, I think I'm burnt out. Yes, your body and everything is telling you the story, right? But what I have really been enjoying, is just journaling, but not just, the regular journaling, right? Journaling, getting into like my little cozy space, making sure all things are quiet, like really setting the mood and setting the tone and setting the atmosphere when I journal. Really taking a page out of your book and my book to be mindful. Like when I was at TJ Maxx, right? And I bought a few things and I said, I love this cup and I want to drink from this cup. And I want to pour into myself. So I'm going to get a cup that I actually like, and I want to drink from it, because that's going to remind me that I'm refueling myself and doing something for myself. So for me, it's not necessarily only about the practices, but the consciousness around the practice, right? And so like when I do something, I'm like, I'm doing this for me now, right? After I put the baby down and I'm reading a really good book, I'm reading this book for me now, right? It's not to get ahead, or it's not to do something. It is a thing that is personal just for me. So having that mindset shift from go, do, 4 to pour, and I'm doing it for me. That's what's really been helpful.
I love that. And I love the fact that it's something as simple as this cup. And every time you grab that cup and you're holding that cup and you're sipping your tea out of that cup, it's a reminder that you're pouring into me, and it has an affirmation on it. And so those things, they matter, you all. Really, really matter. It's
They
like,
do.
Yes, they do. I'm traveling right now, but I have this favorite sweatshirt that I've had for years. And so one of my favorite things to do when I get home is to get in the tub. I'm a bath girl. Get in the tub, get out, and put on my cozy sweatshirt. It's way too hot for that here in Costa Rica. I am in Costa Rica, which is why it's a little dark. Again, the ocean's behind me, the greenery's behind me, but you're in nature out here, so it's not all the extra fanfare lights. But you know what? This is me filling my cup. So I love hearing like those. I have a cup that says Belize, and it just reminds me of good, happy times in terms of Belize. So now we're gonna keep it moving, and we're going to talk about some stress management techniques. So that's another thing that we can really focus on. So we've talked about ways to navigate burnout. So far, we've talked about recognizing our signs. We've talked about prioritizing self-care. We've talked about setting boundaries and saying no. I'd love to, please ask me again. I'm fully committed right now. I would love to revisit another time, whatever that looks like. Just, you know what? We're adults, y'all. We got to start adulting. Learn how to use our words and be honest and real. Like that's one of the things that let's stop ghosting. Let's stop disappearing. Let's start being honest about what we can do, what we can't do. And we can say it nicely, but let's be real. Let's be honest. And we're also empowering not only ourselves, but we're empowering others when we do that. We also want to practice self-management, practice stress management techniques. So this can include taking a nice cleansing breath. So I want to invite you all to just place one hand on your heart, one hand on your abdomen. You can close your eyes if you like, or just lower your gaze. And I want you to take in a cleansing breath in through your nose, filling up your abdomen, breathing in peace, joy, and harmony. Slowly exhaling out through your mouth or nose, releasing stress, tension, and anxiety. Breathing in flow, grace, and ease. Exhaling and releasing everything that's not serving me. And with your next cleansing breath, I invite you to think about something you're grateful for. I always say nothing is too small, nothing is too big. Perhaps it was just maybe the beautiful sun shining today, a text that brightened your day. Maybe it was getting in your glasses of water, or something that just made you smile. Taking in a final cleansing breath, gratitude and abundance. Our health is our wealth, our family, our friends, and all those simple abundances that are always happening and around us. I invite you to open your eyes. And just in those brief moments of breathing deeply, you were able to lower your blood pressure. You were able to calm your nervous system. You were able to re-energize your organs and oxygenate your organs. And that was free. And that was less than a minute, maybe 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds. These things really do matter. And I want to encourage you to try incorporating more of these things before, not saying there's not the need for medicinal support at times, but try some of these natural practices and see how effective they are, because you may not need as many of the medications that you think you need. It doesn't hurt to try, because you'll be healthier for it, right? You'll be happier for it. You'll be more joy-filled for it. So whether it is breathing, whether it's a meditation class, a yoga, a seated yoga, a walk, whether it's a call with a friend, or again, your therapist, whether it is a long shower or soaking in the tub or lighting a candle or journaling, what are some of your go-to self-management techniques? We just gave you quite a few. So please share with us some of yours. What are some of yours? And we've shared ours, so we won't reshare those again. But I also want to encourage you all to seek support. We are not meant to be an island to ourselves. And that's something that I love about traveling around the world and really taking an inventory and learning about global wellness practices, which we have a plethora on our platform, from Tai Chi to meditation to pranayama breath work, is because one of the things I notice is that there's such a high sense of community in a lot of other countries that I visit that I absolutely love. And we've become a very individualized society in the United States. And we were never meant to be an island to ourselves. No person was ever meant. I mean, if you think about it, you all, when people commit a crime, they go to prison, right? Sometimes, unfortunately, even when they didn't. But that is a place that we put people that have done something bad.
Mhm.
And they're in prison if they then do something that is considered, you know, bad or break, another law or another offense. Thank you for joining. I see you all joining. Please share with us in the chat where you're joining from. But they put them in the hole. They put them in solitary confinement when they break the rules in prison, which are already there being punished for breaking the rules. Why do they do that? Because it is the worst form of punishment. So for all of us that are out here kind of do you mentality and we're trying to do the most all by ourselves and we don't want to share credit, we don't want to share space, we don't want to share our platform, we just want all the credit, it comes at a cost because it wreaks havoc on us. So I want to get you to share a little more on that, Leslie.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We're in village for a reason. Humans are tribal beings. We're meant for community. We're meant to, my phrase, one another, each other. Right. If we don't have village, we don't have a whole lot. Right. We're meant to share resources. Right. And it's the ego. It's the ego that says I can do it all by myself. Or it's fear that says I have to do it all by myself. Or it's we've been burned before and we've been hurt before. And it's anger that says, my mother used to give us this book, Chicken Little, right? I'll do it all by myself. Right. So there are all these things, these factors of life that sort of come into play that says, I'll do it myself. And we then have to bring in that grace, bring in that flow, bring in that ease, bring in that intentionality that says, no, there is somebody meant to bear this burden with me. There's somebody meant to hold up my arms, just like I did somebody a solid last week. And we're not tit for tat, but we're in village, right? There's somebody who's going to come alongside me and help me with this. But like we've been saying for a lot of things, we have to shift our belief system. We have to shift that mindset and that conditioned pattern of thought that tells us contrary wise. We've got to get into that mental work to be able to show up for ourselves, to take the rest, to take the reprieve, to let somebody else in, to let somebody walk alongside of us, right? We've got to really sort of come against those things that are saying we're doing it all by ourselves and we have to do it all by ourselves.
Absolutely. And I realize I love collaboration and I love community. I just feel like I'm my better and best self when I am in partnership and collaboration and community with family, with friends, which is probably why quality time is one of my top love languages, right? And so that's why it's something that I choose to prioritize because it replenishes and refuels me. So think about how does community look for you? How are you seeking support? Do you have a support system? And if not, why not? And sometimes we have the savior complex. So we're so busy always solving everybody else's problems that we don't really even give people the opportunity to be there for us. We don't, when we say, how are you doing? We'll say, well, I'm all right. Well, some people don't really care, but take a moment and think about who in your life probably does really care. Who really cares? Write down the name of 1 to 3 people that really do genuinely care about you. And are you being honest with them? Are you being vulnerable with them? Are you telling them how you're really doing when they ask? I've heard someone say, I just say I'm okay because I don't have a choice not to be. Well, that's tough, right? Sometimes in some places, maybe in a corporate environment, they may not really care, unfortunately, in certain environments. But I want to challenge all of us to reevaluate, and I talk about this a lot, our relationships, and look at ones that are depleting and ones that are adding, and position yourself where you can have more relationships that are additive and multiplying you versus depleting you and exhausting you. And sometimes it may be you just clean house, you clear out the clutter. You do early spring cleaning and you do solo for a little while and you get intentionally involved with different groups, whether it is a faith community, whether it's a women's group, a men's group, a workout group. Start actively seeking community so you can have support. So we're going to keep it moving, y'all. Thank you so much, Amelia, for joining us from Fredericksburg. Share with us on a 1 to 10, where's your burnout level? And what do you feel is causing yours? And any questions that you all have, please put them in the chat. We want to make sure that we answer your questions. So I'm going to zoom through a couple of the last few ones, and then Leslie, you can add your commentary, but taking breaks. Take breaks, y'all, so important. Taking breaks in the workday, and staycations. Listen, I live for my weekends. Even if I do some work on Saturdays, and honestly, I do usually a few hours on a Saturday, I try not to let it go well into the afternoon. And I definitely look forward to my Sundays as a time of Sabbath, replenishment, church, faith, brunch with friends. It's just a day for me to not be scheduled. Take your breaks. Take breaks throughout the day. Have a stop cutoff time in the evening. It's going to be there, you all. It is going to be there. Evaluate your work-life balance. Assess if it's healthy and what adjustments do you need to make. And so, listen, other people are making their adjustments. The company is still going to be okay if you log off work at a reasonable time. And it may be you start a little earlier. It may be that you take a break and then you log on to just maybe finish up a few emails for 30 minutes. But I've been there where I was working 13 and 14-hour days, and it's not sustainable. Okay, that's why I'm in Costa Rica right now, replenishing and restoring and creating right now in this dark environment right now, and why I create retreats for other high achieving women that need to escape, elevate, enrich, and empower. So, going to make sure that I share a little more about that at the end. But set realistic goals for yourself. I want you to break your task into smaller tasks so you can feel a sense of reward and accomplishment without it always having to be, but I didn't get this done yet or that done. Take that big, maybe it is, I don't know, I am going to deliver a presentation to a major client. Well, don't make it you have to deliver the presentation before you're able to celebrate. Maybe it's I'm going to put 3 pages of my deck together. I'm going to start doing some research first. Small little bite-sized goals. Engage in positive activities that fill your cup. There's a group right near me having a positive activity. It is a table of probably 20 people breaking bread together, having dinner. I love seeing that in their regular group at this establishment. So how beautiful is that to have a community that you get together with regularly? And then consider professional help like coaching and counseling. So I'm going to pause there for right at time. I want you to add what you would like to add, Leslie. If you have questions for us, add it in the chat, and then we will close out in the next 3 to 5 minutes.
Absolutely. And I love it when Naya and I have these partnerships, because with the coaching piece, she comes with the what you can do, like how you can physically attack these things to reach your goals. With the counseling piece, we come in with the going inward and understanding what has been prohibiting you from reaching these goals and what mindset shifts and belief system shifts need to take place. So my encouragement is to combine the being and the doing, the mind and the body. Go inward, then go outward. Give yourself permission to lean into yourself more. Give yourself permission to actually take the break. Give yourself permission to investigate how you got here, and then do those practices. So it takes the mind and body connection, spirit, heart, mind, soul, all of that intertwined too. But you've got to do the whole part if you're going to come out of burnout and fatigue and not go back in it. Because so often we come out, we don't learn the lesson. I bear witness. I've been there, full transparency, right? And we go back through another trial that is sent to remind us, that we still have to put ourselves first.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And, one of the things I also want to share is Leslie is not just a member of the team. She's literally a partner for our upcoming retreat, Global Wellness Retreat in Belize. And so I recognize that while the retreats are a labor of love, they are labor intensive and they are a lot of work. And I also recognize that I love being in partnership with like-minded, like-spirited professionals and individuals that operate in integrity, that do have a spirit of flow, grace, and ease, that are calming for my nervous system. And so that all those things are important. So these are things that we have to recognize about ourselves and the relationships, professional and personal, and how we work best, right? And so that was a way for me to gain support, establish partnership in a very intentional way, it's also a way to, make sure that I'm not feeling like I have to always do everything myself. And so a lot of leaders feel that way. A lot of entrepreneurs feel that way. And so good leaders empower and equip other leaders. Good leaders empower and equip other leaders. So, I'll say it one more time for the people in the back. Good leaders empower and equip other leaders.
Yeah.
It starts with an abundance mindset that there is enough room for everybody. And people will show you through the course of time, if they operate with similar values or not, if you can trust them or not, and start paying attention to those things. And so I'm being very intentional about inviting people to collaborate and partner with me on special projects that could end up turning into more, because I believe that we can do more together, and that we don't have to always try to do it all alone. And so I want to encourage you all with that in the workplace and at home. I also am going to go ahead and put, I see you, Amelia. I'm about to read your detailed comment, and thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead while I'm speaking about the retreats, and I'm going to put our link tree in our retreats page, because we are going to have a retreat call in the next few days, and actually on Saturday. And so if you're interested in learning more about our Utopia Global Wellness retreats that are divinely, I didn't mean to say divine, but divinely curated.
They are.
Yes,
That's real.
divinely curated for women leaders, CEOs, and founders to be able to escape, elevate, enrich, and empower, come together in community, indulge in self-care, partake in executive and wellness coaching, mindful movement, mindful mornings, journaling sessions. Each morning we take time to really reflect on the power of each and every day and just what we're grateful for and setting that intention. And then again, we have designated workshops that really help us to sharpen our saw professionally, but also holistically, mind, spirit, and body, with the backdrop of gorgeous countries like Belize, the beautiful blue ocean, spa treatments, and yes, just lovely. And then that's Belize is July 1st through the 6th, and Bali is September 13th through the 20th. Both of them are going to be beyond epic, transformative. Please make sure that you join us. Go ahead and go to the website, which is utopialivingretreats.com. Sign up on our mailing list. You will be invited to our Saturday call, and we currently have 3 discounted rates, only 3 for the first 3 that sign up with us and register with us. If you register and get your payment in this weekend, you will get an additional $150 off of your deposit. So there's only 3 of those spaces left. We only have a few spaces left. Do not miss out. And we have pricing plans. So utopialivingretreats.com, just put it in the chat. So Amelia, I want to just really acknowledge you. Thank you so much. You said you're loving this. Your burnout on a scale of 1 to 10 is an 8. For the most part, you find yourself stuck in depression and postpartum depression and having to push myself forward with all that I can, depend on me. So not having time to completely heal myself. And that's so tough, Amelia. So I want to just applaud you for investing in your time, in yourself, to be on this call, because a lot of people are just flipping through Netflix and other stuff and not investing. But I want to hand this over to Leslie as a therapist and new mom, just to give Amelia some words of encouragement.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Amelia. Hey, girl. Hey. But I feel you so much with that comment. It can be so overwhelming and so overloading, right? And it is really about taking that inventory and identifying where you can get some of that margin back, where you can get some of that space back, and identify too with postpartum. Now, we've got the hormones, going on. So I was telling my therapist, all of this is not me, right? So let's keep it a band, right? All of this is not you, you're trying to regulate yourself, lack of sleep, all of those things. The body isn't, working as it would if it did not just push out a little tiny human, right? So the body's trying to heal itself. And sometimes it takes from itself to give to your tiny human, right? And also it takes from itself because you need some rest, So that is my quick snippet, but I'm gonna get with you so we can talk about it. And identify where you can pull margin from, identify where you can lean into yourself, identify the thoughts that are brewing up there that's moving you into a direction that you don't want to be in, right? So think on those things, and then identify how and what you can do to pour back into yourself and to give back to yourself whatever it is that you need. You may not be able to give yourself the totality of what you need, but you might be able to give yourself a quarter of what you need, and start there and then let it grow.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. And think about, who is in your village that you trust, that can, watch the baby. Maybe you do a little trade off at some point. Probably overwhelming thing about watching somebody else's kid on top of yours, but you do need the rest, and you do need some of that time. You do need that margin just for you, right? I did put my email address there for anybody that is interested in, let's say, our retreats, or if you'd like to know, I don't know, Leslie, if you want to put your website for congruence for therapy. Leslie also leads this wonderful group for women. If you want to share that as well, I don't know if you have anything coming up for your.
The next thing we're gonna do a vision board journaling session, but that's in April. That'll be in April.
Okay.
But I will put all of my information right here in the comments.
Okay, so Leslie's going to put her information in the comments, so you know how to get a hold of her. So recap. I'm just going to do a quick recap while Leslie's doing that of, different strategies, 10 ways that you can navigate burnout and fatigue, because it is affecting so many of us. Recognizing the signs, be honest with yourself. We're not superhuman. Okay. It's okay. Most of us are dealing with burnout and chronic fatigue. Prioritize self-care, set boundaries, learn when you need to say no or not right now. Practice stress management techniques, seek support, take breaks, evaluate work-life balance, set realistic goals, engage in positive activities, consider professional help. Join our mailing list. We definitely want you to be on our mailing list so we can stay in contact with you with our different opportunities for wellness and self-care. Utopia Global Wellness is bringing wellness to the workplace with our virtual classes, coaching workshops, and retreats. Our 2 retreats are coming up. So all of those deets are in the chat. UtopiaSGW.com, UtopiaLivingRetreats.com. We look forward to being in wellness community with you. Thank you all, and make it a Utopia Living evening. Good night.
Good night.
And God bless. Good night.